I am going to make my own binding. First, I chose black fabric because I thought it was clean and simple, and it's also very traditional. I started by squaring up the edge, and then I'm cutting 2 1/4 inch strips. Now 2 1/4 inch is what I prefer. You could do 2 1/2 inch strips if you wanted a wider edge on the binding, or 2 inch if you wanted it very skinny. I find 2 1/4 gives me a nice thin edge and is also easier to work with than 2 inches. But there's no wrong choice. If this is your first quilt, I would recommend going a little wider at 2 1/2 inches. That'll give you a little more wiggle room. But again, there is no wrong choice. This is your quilt. Do what you want and have fun with it. There are people who have very strong opinions about always doing binding on the bias. Since this quilt has straight edges, I am doing my binding on the straight of grain. I personally find it easier to work with when doing binding by machine. But if this quilt had curves or scallops, I would absolutely do it on the bias. Okay, now to seam these together, I have this one I'm going to put on top, and I'm just going to fold it in over itself to mark this 45-degree angle and have that pressed, and then I'm going to come and lay this on top and seam this. I'll be right back. Okay, so we seamed this. We're going to open it up, see how it looks. Looks great. And then I'm going to cut 1/4 inch of the excess off, and then do this for all 7 strips. And also to distribute the bulk, I'm pressing these seams open. Heat up your iron. Fold the binding in half and press it. You can skip this step, but I find I get better results when I take the time to iron it in half. Starting with the corners and working your way all the way around, trim the excess batting and backing off of the edges of the quilt, giving you a clean edge to attach binding. Okay, we're going to do this by machine. It doesn't matter what color thread you have. I'm going to go like this, and then I'm going to take some excess. I want extra at the end for when I bind the 2 ends together. I'm going to start right about there, and I'm just kind of picking a random place in the middle, and that's good. I'm going to make this about 10 stitches per inch. And I'm going to start by doing a foot width from the edge. And just line it up as I go. You could take the time and pin it on, but I'll just line it up as I go. Okay, now for the tricky bit, the corner. So with this, I'm going to measure, just eyeball 1/4 inch. I can feel the edge of the quilt right there, 1/4 inch up and 1/4 inch over. And I'm going to stop right where my stiletto is. The truth is in the corner, so we're going to stop right there. I'm going to have my needle down, lift up the foot, turn this 90 degrees, and then my binding, I'm also going to make this flappy bit like that, if you can see that. And then when I flip this over, I'll have a nice, neat, mitered edge. And you see how well I landed a foot length over there. I've sewn all the way around and I'm ready to join my two ends together. You want to make it a little bit longer, and I did pretty good there. So the first thing we're going to do is open this up, open up our binding, and I am going to fold this edge in like this and finger press that. There. Just like we did before. And so that's the edge that we're gonna seam. And then I'm gonna take this, we're gonna have this laying out to the edge and have this laying out like that, and then I'm going to fold this 1/8 of an inch shorter than where this fold is. It's probably hard to see because it's black, but fold this up, trim that. Okay, I have this pinned, right sides together, so the fold is going up here and down here of the binding. I'm going to sew this seam across where the pin is. Okay, I have this seam together. I'm going to trim this down at 1/4 of an inch. Throw those away and finger press this open, and then ta-da! My two edges of the binding are seamed and it's ready to stitch the rest of the way. Let's clip our corners. I like to clip that part so it lays open, and then I'm going to cut this at a 45-degree angle right to the seam. For this one, the color of the thread does matter. I have a dark green at the bottom and black on top. And we're going to fold that round to get it started. I'm going to put my needle in, hold it in place, line it up. And I'm going to sew right on the very edge, and I'm going to pull the fabric up. I don't want to fold it in like that. I'm going to wrap this around. This is what the back should look like, and bring that to the front. And some people would pin this or use clips, but I personally just pin as I go, and this is where the stiletto is incredibly useful. We're going to stitch right on the very edge. Now we are getting to the dreaded corner. It's not going to be so bad. Okay, for the corner, we're going to pull this out. We've already clipped it on the inside. I'm going to pull this out and just work a miter. Usually I have to do it a couple times, but that right there, we're just going to work a miter, work a nice 45-degree angle in the corner, and not pull it too far to the front. And right there, we're going to stitch to the okay. Lock that needle down all the way. Pivot. Turn. And ta-da! Look at how nice and sharp and neat that corner is. And we're going to go all the way around the quilt in this manner, do 3 more corners, and then we're done. Okay, the binding is done. Let's take an up-close and personal look. For the top of the binding, you want to see the top stitching right on the very, very edge. The corners have a nice miter. Those look good. And on the back, you want to see this line right here, where we top stitched it down just on the inside of where the binding wraps around. Thank you so much for watching my tutorial. If you found this helpful, please like, please subscribe. Until next time, goodbye.